morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Conquer with the Hosses. Donna wants one more project done this winter before we get busy in the spring. So Caleb, as he's eating his morning breakfast, what are you having? Cheetos? Mm-hmm. Cheetos for breakfast.
Make sure you eat Cheetos and you'll go stronger.
So what we're going to do today, we have this coffee breakfast area, dessert area, whatever we're doing here, but my coffee maker sits there, this countertop, and these cabinets. Now what we did last year, and Donna will kill me if I show the kitchen too much because she worries there's a dirty dish in the sink. A friend of mine came in and painted these cabinets for us and antiqued them, just like we did the dressers, and they really look good. I didn't like it at first until they got it done, then it really looks good. So we're gonna do the same thing over here. We're gonna paint these cabinets white and then antique them, and I'm gonna take this countertop out and change it to concrete and do a stainless steel sink. This sink got all discolored and we can't clean it anymore. That stain won't come out. Not a big deal, but we just want it to look nice. And then I'm going to do a backsplash here. But today in our concrete video, we're going to take this out. We're going to make a template, remove this, and put in concrete. So that's what Caleb and I are up to on this snowy day.
How heavy is this?
Come on, pick it up. Come on. Come on. Okay, let's get set up and get busy. So I cut masonite into about 2-inch strips, and I outlined the perimeter. Now everything fits nice and loose. Okay, we don't want a real tight fit because we need to build this and get the countertop in here. So if I had to guess, I have about 1/8 of an inch gap on the wall to my template. So I'll hold these in and just show a little bit of a gap. But this will show if this wall is out of square, then we'll build the countertop out of square with it. We're going to custom build this to fit this area right here. How's this cheese puffs? Good. So as my glue gun heats up, I'll just put a little dab of hot glue and lock this down in the face so that won't move. And then I'll go around the perimeter and put a good amount of glue on these intersections. Same thing back here. Now I'm not going to take this backsplash off until we go to install. So I will add a 1/2 inch to my template as I'm building it up at the shop. And I'll write that right here, plus a 1/2 inch, plus a 1/2 inch, plus a 1/2 inch, so I don't forget. And lastly, I'll do my sink layout where this old sink is, so that I put my new sink in the same area, so the plumbing works, so everything works right in this area. It fits in the cabinet space, so that'll all be set. So I'll go ahead and get this glued up. As soon as we're warm, it looks like we're good. So Caleb and I are moving right along. So I choose to use masonite because you can cut it real easy, with snips. And it's real cheap. So with the glue gun hot, just a nice little dab there, not a lot, and you position that right to the front of the cabinetry, right there, and it dries quick. Boom, done. So do that. This is about, what'd you guess, 6 feet? So about every 3 feet, just put a little dot, press it down, make sure you're flush, and it's already secure. And then the end. Slide that out a little right there. Okay. Nope, we're good. I didn't move it. Okay, so as that is secured, now I just start working my way around the perimeter. So this is the front, this will be the side. If your corners don't line up, that's okay, because the front and side lines up. See the bow in that wall? So we'll make it to the inside edge of the bow. Okay. Get this plug over one. And a nice glob of hot glue, and lock that in place. And you can see it's dry in seconds, nice and secure. So I'll bring you up here for a close-up of this one. So I want there to be about 1/8 of an inch gap on the wall. Just hold that secure for a couple seconds. Now you can see the gap that I have along the wall. So we'll center this on there. This gap will be very minimal. And we'll close it up with a bead of caulking. Color match the side. You'll never even know it's there. Lastly, we'll do the sink layout right here. Okay, so these are right where I want them for the position of the new sink. So a nice supply of glue there. Lock it in place just for a couple seconds. And I want to mark the front of the sink right here. Okay, so there is my template, and just for transportation I'm going to go ahead and put a diagonal piece here. Okay, now I'm not doing the faucet layout because we're doing an over counter drop-in sink, and this will get mounted right into the structure of the sink. If we were doing undermount, I would need the whole layout, or we could drill them later. We do them both ways. Now just label everything so that when I get it up to the garage, it all makes sense. Okay, there, everything is labeled. I just do every side. Wall, 1/2 inch plus 1/2 inch that way, plus 1/2 inch that way, back, plus 1/2 inch that way. Another wall, broken stone, front, top, broken stone, front, sink, front. So when we're up at the garage, all this will make sense. When we're standing here, you know, why do you write wall right here when you know it's a wall? But when we're up at the garage building this, you know, you just need reminded what is everything in its place. Sometimes we'll even mark the outlets in it for our backsplashes. Here it doesn't apply because we're going to do a ceramic backsplash. So that has nothing to do with the countertop right now. So I didn't forget anything. I have the front of my sink layout. I don't need faucet. If I did, I'd do a center line right here. Faucet, faucet, center a faucet, and that would all intersect up at the garage, and I'd have my layout. We have a little bit of a gap everywhere. Now when we come back to do install, we may have to even pull this trim off. We might have to take some switch covers off. We could bring this in on an angle and set it down. This is, you know, right around 5 feet long, maybe closer to 6 feet. It's going to be heavy, so to hold up one side, wiggle it into place, we might end up scratching some trim, so we may just want to get this out of here. We'll see at that point. Alright, let's go ahead and get this up to the garage and get everything back in place. Now, since I didn't use very much glue under these fronts, they just popped right loose. And that doesn't hurt the template at all. Now these I used a lot more glue. This will break before that comes off. Okay, so you can see, you know, how close that's going to be. Sliding a new one in here. So we'll see. We may leave the trim, we may take it off. Okay, so we start off by just putting our strip front edge right down the edge of the melamine. Pre-drilled holes on it, and this is 1.5 inches. Just snug them up. We have a screw about every 10 to 12 inches. Okay, so we got our step liner in place. I put our template tight up against the face of that. I added a 1/2 inch, which took me to 25.5. So now we had about 1/8 of an inch clearance on our template. So I'm building this form tight to the template. That way I know the countertop's going to fit perfectly in place. There it is. There's our perimeter form for our countertop. Here's our sink location. Now I couldn't find the exact same size sink. The one I bought is 15 inches. So what I need to do is run down to the house and make sure that that's going to fit in the cabinet right below it. I may have to go find a smaller bar sink.
That's where I found them.
What's up, buddy?
That's where I found them.
More gloves. Okay. So it's lunchtime anyways. Caleb has to get to school. I'll get the sink squared away. We'll pick it up there in a little bit. Okay, good morning everybody. Caleb and I are back up here at the garage. We're going to go ahead and pour this countertop. Now, this is our sink template that we got for our little tiny bar sink. It's real small. And we know that this is our opening. So take your pencil and just draw a line where we know, or you do this half right here. Nice and straight. Good. Make your corners real good so we can see them. Right like that. No, we don't care about back there. We just want this front layout. So now we are done with our template. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on. But this is a new system that I'm doing We usually pour these upside down in our molds. This one, the finish is right side up. So I didn't have to do any templating, flip over. It's all, top is top. So I used 1.5 inch styrofoam board in the template that they provided me. Check it with the sink, make sure it's the right one. And now I'm just going to wrap a little bit of packing tape around the perimeter. Okay, so we've got most of our reinforcement in place, and that's what we want to see, just nice even reinforcement. I like to beef up around these corners. The weakest part right off of these corners. So we want to make provisions so it doesn't crack. If it does crack, the smallest of a hairline crack, we don't want anything moving and coming apart and looking bad and just ruining the whole process. So we just take a bunch of, when I say a bunch, I mean 4 or 5, just single strands of wire and bend around these corners. And I don't even do 90s, I do like 45s and bring these out just to give it some reinforcement around these weaker areas. So I'll keep 3 for each corner, just a slight bend, and I'll put these in as we're pouring. But I just wanted to show you that. It'll either want to crack off of here or dead center. So we beef this whole area up so we get cracking to a minimum. I think we are ready to mix, Caleb. So we brought the mortar mixer in yesterday, let it warm up a little bit. I don't like starting it when it's super cold out, so we'll take it outside, get it started. No, we'll use the big mixer. Now, we use 250 pounds of sand to a bag of Portland cement, which is 97 pounds of cement. But what we're going to do on this one, Thrower Concrete gave me this Sika Concrete silica fume. It's supposed to densify the concrete, high strength, high durability. What I'm hoping is nothing will scratch it. Always looking for ways to improve our concrete mixes on everything we do, but on the countertops, we don't want to see chips, we don't want to see scratches. So this product should make it more durable and give us better protection. So this is the first time I'm using that. So I'll get her super plasticizer measured out, I'll get her water measured out, we'll get it all set up. See you in a couple minutes. So we need 8 pounds of silica fume. So I just zeroed out the scale. We're gonna fill this up. We'll probably be able to get 2 or 3 pounds in this. So I'll just do multiple loads of it, and we'll just put it in one of our water buckets, dissolve it in the water, and then add to the mix. Five bags of sand to 1 bag of cement. So I'll put 3 bags of my sand in, the cement, 2 bags of sand. That way I get it all mixing together nice and even.
Okay, so as that's mixing together real good, all dry, no liquids yet, I'm going to go ahead and add the silica fume. So next I add in my fiber mesh, and I'll just sprinkle this in, still all dry material. Just let that mix for just a couple of minutes, and now I'll take my Super P, so just let that mix for about 10 minutes. See how it's just starting to fall off of the paddles? That's mixing. I just wanted to point out, I didn't even use all of my water that I had weighed out for that mix. Depending on how wet the material is, the sand, the silica fume may have changed it, but normally we would have all this water in the mix, but I didn't put it in because I like the texture of that right now. I don't want it too wet. So we're going to go ahead and let that mix a little bit more. I'll dump it in the wheelbarrow, right into place. So you can see we're back in the garage. I got the mortar mixer cleaned up, and concrete's just piled up here in the wheelbarrow. Now this is a very slow setting mix. Everything's real cold. We're inside, no sun on it, and it's very dense, tight. Like this wouldn't even be a slump, you know. If you put it in a slump cone, it wouldn't even move. Very little water in here. So I'm going to leave my reinforcement where I have it, and I'll just pick it up a little bit in the concrete as we put it in. We just put globs everywhere, and then we pack it with our fingers to get rid of all the air bubbles and condense all the concrete together. Wouldn't do any good to do a vibrator in here. It just would not condense it. You have to knead it together. You want to knit all the, here I'll show you. Take a blob of concrete. There you go. Like a hamburger size patty. And just place them in there. There you go. Now, I will take these little ones out and I'll place those in strategically where I want them.
Okay, so I just let the camera run the whole entire time I did that. So you saw pretty much everything. I just took my time with my straight edge. It's nice and slow working everything. I have a couple little low spots here. I'll just go ahead and fill these in. And I'll trowel right over that. Everything else is right exactly where I want it. I'll let that tighten up a little bit. I have quite a bit of material left. I'm going to form up a little square right here and see about making a little stamp table. So it only took me a couple minutes to form up this little 42-inch by 2 foot, probably more like 21-inch tabletop. I just put some scrap steel in there. Concrete still hasn't changed too much. Same process. I'm just using up my material, do a little experiment. We'll try stamping one and see what kind of finish that leaves. So the concrete's been poured probably about 45 minutes sitting here. It's starting to get real glassy looking on top. The bleed water's starting to come up a little. Now there's not a lot of water in this mix, so you're not going to get a lot of it. So once that starts happening, I'm going to give it a light trowel, just cleaning it up. I'm going to grind this all off anyways, but I want it pretty true everywhere. Pretty flattened out. So just a nice easy trowel. Any little holes, you can fill them in, or you can leave them go and you'll fill them in with a different color, and that's a really nice look. This particular one, we're doing a gray concrete countertop, no color. I might do, excuse me, I might do a black overlay on this just to give it some little speckles of black, get some variation in there. Any little debris sticking up on this front, we're going to knock it off with a grinder later. Just keep it to a minimum. Try and get out what you can now. Use it to fill in some holes if you want to. And actually, the more you mess with it, the wetter it gets. So just hit it and be done with it. If it doesn't look perfect, it's not a big deal at this point. So this one is done, ready to be stamped when it gets tighter. This one I want to cover up with plastic and really slow that process down. And any plastic marks in there, we're going to grind it and then we'll change those to a different shade of gray or an entirely different color if you want. So I just put a real thin piece of plastic on top of this. Got it stretched pretty tight. I'll just take my trowel and real lightly lay it in there. So now what that's doing in these folds, it's giving me little impressions in the concrete everywhere. That's going to be our design when it's all done. It's going to allow the concrete to dry really slow and get even stronger. So I'm just using the heel of my trowel to push that plastic and fold it right into the face of that broken stone. So remember these big folds here in the plastic. Let's see what that looks like tomorrow or the next day whenever I get back to this. So I'm going to come up here later today, check on this, see if I can time it just right, and get a nice light stamp on there. And that one will be done. We'll just put a splash of, we could do a splash of storm gray on top of that after we stamp it and seal it. And heck, that could be probably 15 minutes worth of work on it to call that one done. If it works, we'll see. I've never stamped this type of mix design before. So I'm going to get cleaned up. I got one truck to load for tomorrow. I'm going to call it a day. Okay, so it's been probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. The concrete's still really soft. You can see some air bubbles that are just working their way to the surface. So I'm going to try a little corner, but I might just have to wait a little bit longer. I have my storm gray antiquing. Always spray your patterns as well as the concrete. I'm just going to spray this little corner and see what happens. And in just a few seconds you can see how the color is settling in those low parts of the stamp of the wood grain. It's really taken a nice look. So we'll let this dry real good. I'll clean it, maybe splash on a little more color here and there, and put a coat of sealer on it when I'm doing this. This is all concrete I was just going to throw away. Look at that.